Students will be able to write linear equations in two variables given a table of values, a graph, or a verbal description.
The first example that I'm going to work out for you is going to be number 1. The directions for number 1 say to write an equation for each line below. Use fractions if necessary, no decimals. The directions state to write an equation for each line. So we need to know the formula for equation of a line. And the formula for the equation of a line is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is your y-intercept. So if we look at this line here, we can see clearly that the graph crosses the y-axis at 0, 1. That means my y-intercept is going to be positive 1, so plus 1. The slope is not so easily visible. I can see that this line is going uphill, so the slope is going to be a positive number, but what exactly is the slope going to be? We're going to need the formula for slope. It is on your formula sheet. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So far, I've only labeled one point on this line. I'm going to need a second point. And I'm going to take this point right here, 4, 2. Now let's go in and label my x's and my y's. That's x, that's y, that's x, that's y. The first coordinate is always x, the second coordinate is always y. This is my first point, so that's x1, y1. The ones have to go together. And this is going to be x2, y2, because that's my second point. The 2's must go together. Now we just substitute into the formula. Y2 is going to be 2, y1 is 1, x2 is 4, and x1 is 0. Remember that the minuses are part of the formula and cannot be changed. So in the numerator, y2 minus y1, I'm going to have 2 minus 1. In my denominator, x2 minus x1, I'm going to have 4 minus 0. 2 minus 1 is 1, and 4 minus 0 is 4. So my slope is 1/4. Remember that our final answer has to look like this, y equals mx plus b. I already had my y-intercept 1. I got that from my picture. The line crosses the y-axis at 1, and I just found my slope. So I'm going to put the slope in here for m. Y equals 1/4 x plus 1. So the equation of this line right here, my final answer is y equals 1/4 x plus 1. Remember the directions say use fractions, no decimals. So we use 1/4, not 0.25. A quicker way you may have been taught to find the slope is to do rise over run. Let me get another color so I could just review that with you. To go from this point, the first point, to the second point, what we could do is we could rise, draw a triangle, connecting the points together, and we are going to rise 1, and we are going to run 1, 2, 3, 4. The formula for slope, you could also think of it as rise over run. So if the rise is 1 and the run is 4, you still get the same answer, 1/4. And again, this line is going uphill, so it would be a positive 1/4. But if it was going downhill, then you would put a negative right here. Either way is fine. The next example I'll be working out for you will be question number 13. In number 13, you are asked to write an equation for the table. So this time we're given a table, not a graph. We know that our end goal is to get something that looks like y equals mx plus b, where you have a slope and you have a y-intercept. I'm not given any of that here. So I'm going to use the values in the table to first find my slope. Notice I have 4 rows to the table. I'm going to just use the first 2. X1, X2, Y1, Y2. These are my X's. This is the first row, second row. These are my Y's, first row, second row. Okay, that's how I label it there. It doesn't matter which row you use as long as the 1s are together and the 2s are together. You could use the last 2 if you want, but just to be consistent, I will always use the first row and the second row. Next, I need my slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Substitute your values. In my numerator, I'm going to have 8 minus 11. And in my denominator, I am going to have 0 minus negative 3. 8 minus 11 is negative 3 over 0 minus negative 3. 2 minuses make it a positive. It's going to be a positive 3. These are both divisible by 3. So that's going to give me negative 1 over 1, which is just negative 1. So my slope, my m, is negative 1. Now I want to find my y-intercept. Let me switch colors here so it's not confusing. We're going to find it right here. Y equals mx plus b. I'm going to use negative 3 for x, and I'm going to use 11 for y. 11 equals, my slope is negative 1, so negative 1 times negative 3, because that's my x, plus b. Simplify negative 1 times negative 3, and you get positive 3. Bring everything else down. 11 equals 3 plus b. I want to get b by itself, so that means I have to get rid of that positive 3. The opposite of positive 3 is minus 3. Minus 3 cancels out. On my right side, all I have left is b. On my left side, I have 11 minus 3, which is 8. So my y-intercept is 8. Therefore, my final answer is going to be y equals negative x plus 8. The slope was negative 1. So you can put a 1 in here, but when there's a 1 in front of the variable, it's invisible. So we just write negative x, not negative 1x. Just like you wouldn't write 1x, you would just write x. So the final answer is y equals negative x plus 8. I want to point something out to you as well. This will not always be the case, but it is for this problem, so it's worth talking about. When you are looking for the y-intercept, the x value is always 0. X is always 0 for a y-intercept. So you may be able to quickly find the y-intercept by just looking at all the values in the table. Do you see any row of the table where the x coordinate is 0? Yes, the second row right here. So what is the y-intercept? It's 8. And that's what we got when we worked it out algebraically. So sometimes you'll get lucky and you'll have a 0 for an x and you know that this number has to be the y-intercept. That's the definition of a y-intercept. The x coordinate is going to be 0. But if you're not given a situation like this, then you're going to have to work it out mathematically like we did right here. The last example I'm going to do for you will be question number 30. The directions for number 30 is to write a linear equation for the given verbal descriptions. Again, remember that the formula for an equation is y equals mx plus b. We are looking for a slope and we are looking for a y-intercept. I'm going to read the problem aloud and highlight anything that is important. Researchers in northern Russia have discovered a sheet of ice that is melting due to global warming. The sheet of ice had a thickness of 575 meters when it was first discovered. The thickness of the sheet of ice is decreasing at an average rate of 0.75 meters per day. Write a function to find the thickness of the ice sheet in meters, X days after it was discovered. The first thing I want to ask myself is, what is this problem talking about? It's talking about a sheet of ice. What do they give me in this problem? What numerical values do they give me? They give me 575. So the sheet of ice was 575 meters thick. And they also give me 0.75 meters per day. Decreasing. This word decreasing is very critical. Does decreasing mean it's getting bigger or smaller? It means smaller. So if something is getting smaller, we're going to use a, so if something is getting smaller, are we going to use a positive 0.75 or a negative 0.75? Decreasing means you're taking away, so negative 0.75 meters per day. One of these numbers is going to represent slope, and one of these numbers is going to represent y-intercept. When we are looking for slope and y-intercept, it's helpful to think of it in these terms. The slope is how it changes, and the y-intercept is what they refer to as the initial value. If I ask you to write your initials on some paper, you're writing the first letter of your name, right? That's what your name begins with. So we think of this as the beginning or the starting value. So given these two numbers, 575 and negative 0.75, we gotta figure out which one of these is the value by which the ice sheet is changing and which one is the initial value, which one is the starting value. So sometimes you'll get lucky and you'll see this word rate. Rate is slope. Rate is how it changes. It's changing, it's decreasing by 0.75. So that's my slope. That's going to be my M, my slope. When researchers first discovered this ice sheet, it was 575 meters thick. That's going to be my B, my y-intercept. That's the beginning. When it was first discovered, it started at 575 meters. So that's my y-intercept. Therefore, the equation of the line that models this description is y equals negative 0.75x plus 575. X represented days. Each day, it's decreasing 0.75 meters, and it started when it was discovered at 575 meters.
Thanks for watching this video. For more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button. Also, follow us on social media or visit us at almightyalgebra.com.